Good morning. Happy Friday. Thanks for being with us once again. Today, we've got a great guest for you today. I've wanted this guest for a long time, and he's sitting in the green room. He's going to start blushing shortly, so I'll try not to toot his horn too much. I'm sure he'll do that. He's not a humble guy at all. He's a rock star. Really glad you're here. We are across Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're everywhere today. Bit of a quick one. This one, I was just saying to our guest there, we just quickly got this sorted this week, and I know a majority of you will be watching on catch up, so thank you so much for that. But if you're not, if you're live, awesome, let us know you're here. You can pop stuff in the comments as usual, let us know that you're there. Of course, we can also give you a little shout out as well, so if you have a business or even a link, you can pop it in there, and we'll do what we can to share your business. So now let me just get my bio, because it's a good one, this one. Let me have a look. So here we go. Today's guest is a Newcastle-based illustrator. He draws influence from B-movie posters, comic book art, retro skate graphics, and absolutely anything motorcycle orientated. Using his signature style of solid black line work and bold colors to create instantly recognizable illustration and graphics for apparel lines, branding and ad campaigns, event posters and book covers. And recently, our guest has been creating lots of original works and limited edition prints, which have led to high-profile solo shows, both in the UK and the US. Welcome to the show, Ryan Quickfall.
Hey, how are you doing?
Is that it? Like, I'll give you that massive bio. How are you doing? I'm good, mate. Yourself? You're right.
Yeah, good. Aye, great.
Also known as Ryan Roadkill.
Yeah, that's sort of my art name.
Should we address the elephant in the room then? Where'd that come from, bud?
Do you know what? That was like a little T-shirt line that I did back in about 1999, 2000, something like that. And I don't really know where the name came from back then, but I just sort of printed a few T-shirts just for my mates and stuff. Never really went anywhere. And then when Instagram kicked off, I thought, oh, what's my name going to be? And then, I just picked that back up from back in the day.
Excellent. Love it, because, I mean, you love motorbikes, right? So,
yeah.
And you know, a lot of your art has cars in it and stuff like that, and it's always on the motorway with death on a bike and things like that. So is that a little nod to that, Ryan, the Roadkill thing?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely to do with the anything with the internal combustion engine, I guess. So the name is related to that, I guess. Yeah, totally. And the name just sort of stuck, snowballed, and then you get so far down the line you can't really change it, can you?
Well, I wouldn't change it. Don't change it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really
sorry. It's funny because obviously my surname's quite unusual as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes people don't know which is real. Like quite a few Americans have asked us also which name, is it Quickfall or is it Roadkill? And they can understand Roadkill but can't get their heads around my actual surname.
Right. You should have been a detective or something, shouldn't you?
Probably.
So I'm really glad I've got you today, because we've got this is streaming through the Enterprise Place for the University of Sunderland, and we've got a lot of creatives who are really interested in journeys from creatives, artists, illustrators. We've got glass blowers, ceramics. We've got loads in the Enterprise Place, and I'm really interested in your journey. Last time we did this, we had Alfie Joey on talking about Alfie's kind of art journey, and Alfie does lots of different mediums, and he's really enjoying his journey. And it was great. We had a couple of creatives as well to join us talking about their particular journey. So after you and I speak, Ryan, we might pull a couple of Enterprise Place members in and have a chat. It'd be great if you could stay around as well and just listen to what they've been up to, and you might be able to,
of course.
They might be able to have a bit of a conversation with them. But back to you, sir. I'd love to hear how your journey went. And we touched upon, just as we started offline there, about colleges and universities. So maybe that's a good place to start, Ryan. Like, where did you do your studies?
Well, I studied at Newcastle College, and I did a degree in illustration and animation. And I left school, and then I did an AVCE. I think, like sort of feeder course to get onto the degree, which was sort of, all encompassing different aspects of art and design. And then, I chose illustration and animation because I thought that was obviously I'm an illustrator at heart. And the animation side was really exciting to get into, but that didn't really work out for us so well. I didn't have the best experience there. I don't think many people on the course did, to be honest. But and then I left college and sort of had to find work. Didn't really come out with the best experience, so I didn't think I was really equipped to go into the industry at that point. So I ended up just working jobs. Got stuck in doing that for a few years, and then realized, it's make or break time. Like, I have to do something creative in the industry, or I'm just not going to do it. And I had a few jobs. Obviously, you mentioned that my work's heavily related to motorcycles and stuff, and I've always been into motorcycles since I was young. And then I got a job in one of the bike shops in Newcastle, bike clothing shops, for a few years, and that sort of solidified that side of things for us. And then where to go from there? From then, I managed to get a job related to motorcycles, but also being a graphic designer for a company doing graphics for motorbikes and stuff. So that was really good. I was there a few years. Then that business sort of moved away, so I lost that job. Got a standing job in a cafe, I think. Yeah, I did. And then people always ask us this, like, when did you start going self-employed? And I can't really put a time scale on it, because it was sort of dribs and drabs at the start. And then I was sort of doing little bits and bobs and sort of building a name for myself on Instagram, I guess, and social media. And then a few things landed, and I just took a leap and rented a room in a studio in Newcastle and thought, I just gotta try and make it work. And the lads that I got the studio with, they were like, well, look, we'll give you enough work to cut and pay you to cover your rent. Mm-hmm. So I knew that was a pretty safe bet to do that, even if I had to work in cafes or whatever and then go in there on an evening or whatever, I just had to make it work. And it just snowballed from there. And I moved into my own studio after that, and the work just, I don't know how, but the work just kept coming in. And it's one of those things, like when you work freelance, it's all about the connections you make and the work you do, and you gradually build a network of people who are like pretty solid, and it grows from that.
When you moved into that unit and you said the guys gave you work, what was the work?
It was design work. It was like graphics and stuff. And
so for them, you were kind of like,
it was for them,
like a contract for them.
Projects they were getting in, and they were like, well, look, your rent's like this much, we'll give you at least that much work a month. So it was ideal, really. I couldn't really turn it down. And then I was in there a few years, and then I got my own studio over the corridor, set that up with a printer that I knew, sort of doing screen prints and stuff. And that sort of informed where I went with my artwork, the screen printed route. And it just snowballed from there. Like I can't really express how much it's like being in the right place at the right time, or being part of the right scene at the right time. And there's an element of luck and chance about it, but you have to do the work to be in that place at the right time. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You have to put yourself out there so that you're ready to be seen.
This is going to be a bit of a mad question, but were you any good? Like when you came out of your studies, and you said there about your experience might have been a bit sketchy, and when you came out, when did you feel that you were good enough to kind of sell stuff and deliver stuff?
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm not even lying. Like at this stage, I still feel like I know where I'm going and what I'm doing, and but I still. There's some projects where I think, oh man, like I'm not confident with this. So I don't know where I did get confidence from. I don't know. You have to just dive into the deep end. Look, if you're not good, you're only going to get good by doing it. So I I've got this theory of like, if I don't know how to do something, I'm very DIY, and like, I guess like that punk aesthetic that I grew up with around like BMXing and stuff is like, you just learn how to do stuff. You just DIY, do it yourself. And I'm completely self-taught, and all the programs that I know, how to paint, how to draw, like I just taught myself, and I taught myself through just doing work, so yeah, I sort of think, say yes to the work and then find out how to do it. Just learn on the job.
I would hope you said that, and like I said, I obviously didn't mean to roast you saying were you any good, but
No.
it is really interesting. I'm so glad. And I think you touched upon a little bit there of maybe imposter syndrome. Sometimes even though we can be really like, achieve so much, we still put so much pressure on ourselves. And I was talking to a creative a couple of weeks ago on this, and I was like saying, like, when do you call yourself an artist? When do you decide that you are an artist? And I think there's only one person that can decide that. It's yourself. When do you start saying, "Oh, I'm an artist"? And there's an element of imposter syndrome in there.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think all creators that I know have got that, and it's because it's not a solid. It's not. You are producing something, but it's not like you're a plumber where you go in and you do a physical job and there's a result at the end of it. And you can say, yeah, I'm a plumber because I've made that. I've fixed that pipe or whatever. I've put that kitchen in because I'm a kitchen fitter or whatever. There's a result at the end of it. Whereas like an artist, like you create something and its value is not known. That, like art, the value of art is like driven by what the artist says it's worth, what the industry says it's worth. Like it's a really unusual job. And in fact, like some people don't understand how you can be an artist, because I remember getting in a taxi a couple of years ago and the guy was like, "Oh, what do you do?" I was like, I sometimes say I'm an illustrator because I sort of split my work between being an illustrator and an artist. But I thought, you probably won't know what an illustrator means. So I said, "Oh, I'm an artist." And he was like, just blank. He had no idea what an artist was, because they think, like they've got paintings in the Louvre and stuff, like in the National Portrait Gallery, they're artists. And this guy was like, "But I don't understand, like, what is an artist?" And you think that's the most simple thing, that people know what an artist is, but people don't get what your job is, like they don't understand that it can be a job. I think that's it.
Yeah. Going back to that bit when I asked you if you were good, who decides when you're good, Ryan? Is it you or is it the eye? Because art can be very expressionist, and some people can say, "Wow, that's terrible." Other people can say, "Wow, that's genius." Is it the artist who decides that they think that's good enough, or is it the
I don't know, because there's that old saying, isn't it? Art is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. Like, this is the mystery of art, isn't it? Like, where's the value in art? It is, where's the value in it? It's just, if somebody likes it and wants to buy it, they put a value on it. And I don't know. It's such a weird world. And that, that's why I split my time between being an artist and an illustrator. So, I do commercial work, which I know the value of straight away. Because it's driven by an industry, and the industry knows what the value of that work is, because it might be a half-page illustration. Well, a half-page illustration works at this price rate. A book cover is this, whatever, or the client has a budget. Whereas, like with artwork, you have to price everything yourself, and I mean, you have to put the price tag on, this piece of work here or whatever, like. And you have to really judge it. You have to sort of quickly get a grasp of like how to price your work. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like value in your work, who says it's worth whatever? It's the artist at the end of the day, I guess. You have to put a price on the amount of time that you've put into it, what you think it could sell for, and what you think's a fair price for your time, and your integrity, and all the skill set that you've, like people don't see the behind the scenes, which is the years of like scraping the bottom of the barrel and having no money. Like I've spent a lot more time having no money than I have being paid for my work.
Yeah.
And they don't see any of that. You know, they might think, oh, bloody hell, like, it's how much for a print? But, you know, it's the experience that you've gained. You've got payback all that time.
I'd say what's really interesting is seeing no one knows what's behind the scenes. But what I love about you, Ryan, is your social stuff. You're great on social, and I want to delve into that because I know a lot of creatives that we've spoken to. I think they may struggle with that, and I always ask them, don't worry too much about the product. I'd love to see more about you. And what I enjoy about what you do is you sort of share your early stage stuff, like prototypes. You be sketching stuff with pencil, which will then subsequently then be something else down the line. And I think sometimes you share stuff where you maybe not knowing what the end's going to be or what color it's going to be or where you might use it. And I love that. So can we talk a little bit about that process that you have?
Yeah, the process in terms of creating the artwork. Well, I try to be like as hands-on as possible because it's so easy to get carried away. And like I've got a massive Wacom tablet sat next to us here, and it's so easy to get stuck on that and just create digitally from start to finish. But I like to try and do as much as I can with a pen and pencil, you know, like hands-on. So whether that's like starting with a sketch and then the sketch turns, you know, I take the sketch digitally and render it from there. Or I might, you know, start from a sketch and then go to like, let's say, a painting like this, you know. Yeah, I try and like keep it as much the artist's hand in the work as possible without going digital. And my process is start with just I don't know where the concepts come from, but somewhere in here. And then I just sort of sit sketching away, sketch a few ideas out. Then I might like take a brush pen to that and just sketch away, brush, pen, build it up. And then I'd probably say 70% of them just get torn out of the sketchbook and go in a drawer. And I've got drawers down here just full of old sketches that I've done. Which some things have become something and some of them have just sat there and just not being used at all. And you know, I have days where I just go through that drawer if I'm stuck for stuff and I'll just pull something out and I'm like, oh, I totally forgot about this. And then I'll just take that and develop that into something. But then a lot of the time, if I'm working for a client and maybe it's going to be screen printed at the end of the day and I know that needs to be set up digitally, I'll then take that sketch, transfer it to Photoshop and work on the tablet, and I'll ink it out on the tablet and stuff. And that just makes it easier to set up for print, but it also it's a bit more fast paced and a bit more fluid to just do it digitally. And for clients, obviously, I've got stacks of client work just backed up normally, and I need to just get through it. Yeah. So it's easier to just do things digitally then. Right. But for my personal work, I try and do everything by hand if I can.
What's the benefits of doing it by hand, then, Ryan? Is it just actual, you know, you get a kick out of it, or is it a better outcome?
I think it's both. It's like I enjoy the process more, and it's a bit more of like a therapy away from like doing all the digital stuff, and a break for me. And I prefer the finish of the line work and stuff. It's just flowing the brush and like getting the ink right and like getting the consistency of the ink and like just dragging your brush. It's just much better. It's just much more therapeutic, and I feel like I'm achieving more by doing it by hand because a lot more people can do things digitally because the programs are so good and the software and the techniques are just, the brushes and stuff are just nailed now. You know, like it's so much easier to create stuff digitally, whereas like by doing stuff by hand, start to finishes, it's a much higher skill set, I think.
You know, some of your work, it's quite detailed, you know, some of the like sort of posters or the kind of pop arty stuff, and like, you know, there's loads of detail and there's all sorts happening in the backgrounds, that sort of thing. And then you've got that picture to the side of there, which is pretty simple. It is what it is, that the skull.
Super graphic.
Yeah. What do you prefer to do? You know?
It depends. I like spontaneous sort of line work and stuff, so like sometimes I'll do things like you say, sometimes things are a lot more detailed than others. And it sort of depends on the application, because I know if I'm doing like a t-shirt design or something for a client, I can't build too much detail into it because I know I'll just have the client on saying that their printer is struggling to print this because I've been there 1,000 times. So you really have to have the knowledge, which really only comes with time, I think, of making mistakes, to know what level of detail you should be putting into what work for the end printing process. But for stuff like that skull, I knew in my head exactly what I wanted to do then. I wanted to do this like really graphic piece of work, using my like signature line work style. Sorry. Choking.
I'll do the same.
Yeah. So like using my signature line work style, and then building in like, you can't really see it from here, but that's like a really fluorescent pink. The camera's sort of like toned it down a bit. And then there's a glitter applied to it as well. So it's pretty cool. And then there's actual gold leaf on the tooth. So I had that really set in my head of like how I was going to approach that. And I really wanted to do that quite graphic. So it stood out really well with the print techniques I was going to use. But then like stuff like this one here, that's like a painting on canvas. And I've gone quite graphic with it, but it's still it's a lot more detailed than the skull. So yeah, it sort of depends, like the level of detail. I sort of know what the end product's going to be. So I sort of decide on the early stages how detailed or, intricate the design's going to be.
So when you do that skull, for instance, I know you've got like UV kind of spot on it as well.
Oh yeah, and the background, you can't pick it up on this camera, but that's matte black paper with like gloss black flashes in the background, and then the black of the skull line work is like gloss UV. So you've got like 2 different types of blacks on that, well 3 because the paper as well.
So thinking about, you wanted to know how that looked, but actually you kind of took it a step far with all those different sort of, the glitter and everything. So how do you have to collaborate with somebody on that?
Yeah, I've got a printer like that I work with, and like basically I had this like idea of how I wanted to do it, and then I went to them and said, look, this is the idea. Here's a mock-up of it. And they were like, well, this is where like people's expertise, like that's only as good as it is because I had the vision, implemented the artwork, but then I went to them and said like, how do we do this? And then I used the printer's expertise. And they were like, well, we should use this type of ink on this, this black, and then we could do this black different. And we could do the pink this color. And yeah, you've got to like, I think as an artist, you've got to use the people in your network sort of expertise, and then you're going to get the best product you can. I could have just went to the printer and said, oh, I want to do it this way. Let's just do it. And I wouldn't have really thought about putting like all those different blacks in it. But they knew straight away. They were like, oh, you should do this a different color from this. And the glitter, like it was we went there and they were like, okay, well, we'll do the glitter, but like there's all these different types of glitter you can use, like different colors of glitter. And they were like, well, I think this one will work best. And then they mixed the glitter up, printed a test print, but it wasn't glittery enough. So like, I mix more glitter in and just doing it that way till we get it right.
Diva.
I know. Well, it's working with a printer who are like perfectionists with the prints as well. So, like I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I'm happy to, call it when I call it. But they were like, no, like we need to get it like perfect. So,
when you do limited edition prints, so if we can talk a little bit commercial and maybe give some of our enterprise members who are watching from the university some ideas about how they can commercialize and think about that. You do limited edition prints, don't you?
Yeah.
How do you decide how many to do?
Well, it's very hard because, you'd like to do like 400 prints and sell them all, wouldn't you? But there's a fine line of like not flooding the market with your work,
Okay.
and creating demand for your work. So like, I guess that obviously, the less you print, if you've got that like client base out there, the less you print, the more demand there's going to be for it. But you need to cover all bases. So you need to have a level where there's a demand for the work and it's going to sell out, but also print enough and price them enough that you're going to make a worthwhile amount of money out of it, because it's a job at the end of the day. So I think with the skulls that we're talking about, I did 40 units, pink ones, and then I did 2 separate colorways. One was a gold skull, and there was 20 of those, and then there was 20 silver skulls as well. So we sort of mixed the print run up into different colorways, which is another way of like, instead of just releasing 60 pink, you drop it down to 40 pink, 20 another way, and 20 another way, which it means that the smaller number ones might sell first, which they have.
Right.
Yeah. So you're trying to cover as many bases as you can, really, with that. I think people can see if you're just in it for the money and you just release like 300 prints and you try and flog them all. I don't know. That's not what I'm about. Like I want to try and like nurture a fan base who really want to buy me work. Because the money you spend, like those skulls are £130, which I think is a totally fair price for the amount that they cost me to print and the time that goes into them and the time for packing them up and shipping them out and stuff. Like I'll spend like full days just sat, not being able to do any other work, just rolling prints up, tubing them, getting them out, going to the post office, booking them in. But I could have printed loads more and made a lot more money, but that's not really what it's about. You've got to really manage your manage the availability of your artwork to create demand.
I think it was really interesting you said the smaller numbers went first, so that's like a kind of scarcity in the sales world. It would create scarcity, wouldn't you? So that was really interesting that the short run pieces went first. Is that literally that you touched upon there, that the kind of the fan sort of side of it? People will want that short run, and I want one of those.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how all artists work, like, you've got to, you've got to make things limited so that they sell. Also, like if something's sold out, I get this all the time. I've got prints that I did ages ago and people contact me and they'll say, "Oh, can I get this print? I know it's sold out." Like, no, because once it's sold out, like I think they think that you'll maybe you've got some lying around, which I normally don't, or you'll just print some more. But that's not how it works for me. Like once it's gone, it's sort of gone. I'm not gonna do another print run, or if I do another print run of the same artwork, it's changed in some way, so it's a new color edition, or it's at a different size. There's no point just doing an artwork saying it's limited, sell it out, realize it's sold out. You haven't printed enough, or you haven't priced it well enough, or whatever, and you want more of the pie. Like, that's like just snubbing the nose of your fans, I think.
So that's interesting, but you can kind of repurpose it a little bit. So I'm imagining that I think the one way it's like a death on a bike, you know what I mean? And like, it's really long. Like you've got a lovely wide one, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
I love that one. So you could decide to make that a bit smaller, or you could change the colorways, which would let you do another limited edition run. Yeah,
I actually did that. That was one print that I did that with because the demand was so high. I released that originally as it was like a yellow in the orange fade in the background with a character in blue, I think. And then a year later, I think it was like on the anniversary of releasing it. I'd had so many people. I think probably once a week I was getting an email of people saying that they wanted that print. So I decided to do a new colorway of it. And I don't think that's the same as just like reprinting.
Yeah.
Because it's mixing it up. And I knew that lots of people wanted a copy of it. So I did that again. I re-released that for the same price, different colorway. And I think it was more limited numbers this time.
And do you give it a name as well, like that particular piece?
Yeah, it was called Life at 120.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Can I talk a little bit about the fan scenario? So in terms of, do you get people who just buy everything you do? Do you get people who are just, constantly messaging you or liking your stuff and that sort of stuff? Have you created a bit of a tribe?
Yeah, definitely. And I want to do that even more because those people are like solid, they really get what you do and really appreciate it. And you've just struck like a nerve with them.
Yeah.
I've got like a handful of people who sort of buy like everything. And there's some people who you won't hear from for ages. And then they'll just go through and buy everything you've got available. And not
Really?
they'll buy like one or two, like 2-3 copies of things. And yeah. And that always surprises us, because any sale like still surprises us. Like when you were saying before, like when do you like call yourself an artist, or when do you become confident that you can be an artist, or when do you become confident in your work? And like I'm still not quite, and it still surprises when I get sales in, especially when I do a print release and like 70% of it sells out in like the first couple of days. I think, bloody hell, like I just still don't expect it. Still to this day,
Well, I did say at the intro, you're a humble lad. But I think that shows authenticity though, Ryan. And actually, it sounds like you're listening to your tribe in terms of you're putting out stuff that they're like. So it sounds like you've got the model really right. If you had done 100 prints and you've only sold 2 of them, that it would lend itself to that particular print being a bit naff. But the fact that you're selling them out means that you're hitting the sweet spot with what your kind of base wants.
Yeah, and I think what I'm trying to do now, and I know you said I was like quite good with my social media and stuff, but to me, I'm really not. I don't really have enough time to like direct my energy into it. But what I'd really like to do, and I am starting to, is let those followers that I've got see the process, like you were saying before. Like I can drip feed like the stages of it, so they feel part of the process. And then at the end, like in my head, I'm sort of thinking, well, I'll put out initial sketches, see what the reaction is, show people the development as I go along. Then I come ready to release the print, but I could go in like a number of colorways, and then maybe I'll put that out to my followers, and just say like, you've been part of the process all the way along. What would you like to see at the end? I mean, you've still got to keep the artist's input in it. It's got to be my decision really at the end of the day. But if I put together, 2 or 3 different color options, then I could say, what would you like to see? And I think that would be really good to allow my followers and fans to like be part of that process all the way through. And then, once they've seen all that happening, they've decided what color it should be, then they can buy it, and then it turns up beautifully packaged, turns up safely, hopefully, and then they can frame it and put it on their wall.
The engagement piece on your social, that is interesting, asking them questions or polls, because you can still have your artist input. It could even be as simple as you do a t-shirt design. Do you want it on the front or do you want it on the back? Yeah,
exactly. In fact, I did that with my last t-shirt design. I sort of put it out like, do you want it on front or back, or like what color t-shirts? And I don't mind doing that with t-shirts because that is such a minefield.
Is it?
It really is. It's like you'll release a black t-shirt, and I'll just do black t-shirts because that's what I wear and what I like, and they'll sell. And then eventually black t-shirts stop selling, and you're like, okay, I'll do white t-shirts, and then they don't sell. And then you think, well, where am I going wrong here? And I think it's just with t-shirts, it's very much like trend based, or maybe seasonal on what color people buy. And then you had the whole thing of like traditionally, like all t-shirt designs were on the front, like a big like front t-shirt print, which is what I always did. But then they just stopped selling overnight pretty much. And everyone did small pocket print, large back print. So then I moved to that. And then they start selling really well, and people love large back prints.
Yeah.
So I think in the aspect of like in relation to t-shirts, it's pretty fair enough to put it out on social media and say, what do you want to buy? Because I don't know anymore.
It's in you say you don't do your social that good, but I think it works really well. It's a good balance, and I think sharing the early stage of your process actually adds value to the end sort of print, if you like, and its actual price, because just as you said there, people don't get to see the journey. They just think, well, that's a print, and it's how much. Well, actually, when you're sharing the process all the way along, that all adds value, and you can sort of see why it costs that much, because there's that much gone into it.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, the printing is not cheap as well. So
no, it's not, and I'm bad at documenting the process. So that's something that I'm really like trying to work on, like I just said, but also on the print side. So like I paid a photographer for like 2 days to come down to the printers and shoot the whole process. Excellent. So I've got like a massive library of like awesome production shots of those skulls being printed. And that's so helpful in the marketing, like when I put my email marketing out, I've got a huge library of amazing images that I can sort of do mail outs with.
Excellent. I think this is a good time. I'm going to bring Christy in. She's nodding away in the back, because Christy and I have spoke about this lately, about her social and sharing the process, and more about Christy and her creativity and muse and everything. So I'm going to bring you in. Morning, Christy.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Hi. Christy, why don't you give us a little bit of a background on who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Yeah, great. So hi, I'm Christy. I'm 22 years old, and I'm currently finished my second year studying glass and ceramics at the University of Sunderland. I'm originally from Ukraine, and I've been living in Slovakia since I was 6 years old. And before that, me and my family were traveling in caravans to many countries as part of a Christian missionary group. So I have a great passion for traveling and also art. I've been interested in art since I was a child. I've attended various drama clubs, art clubs, dance classes, singing in choir. Yeah, just loads of art. And at the end of primary school, my classmate introduced me to ceramics. And since then, I've been attending from the end of primary school to the end of high school. I was attending ceramics class once a week. And since then, my journey with pottery began, which is what brought me to Sunderland, is the course that I'm studying. And yeah, I have a great passion for clay and pottery. So that's what I'm focusing on at the moment.
Wonderful. Ryan, were you going to jump in there?
No, I just thought that was awesome. Like, that's a great story. And like, yeah, I've never really like touched on ceramics at all, but yeah, I love the process of them creating ceramics.
Yeah, it's nice. I think I'm more of a 3D person.
Yeah.
I do love illustrations and photography and painting and a lot of 2D work and fine art. But I think myself, I feel I'm more, I feel settled when I can create 3-dimensional work. So.
Awesome.
Christy, have you got anything there that you've got any of your ceramic teaware that you?
Yeah, I've brought a few pieces to show.
Yes.
I hope it'll look fine on the camera.
Of course it will.
So at the moment, I'm focusing on making teaware and jewelry. So I have a few tea bowls here.
Nice.
So the design is quite minimal on the outside. On the inside, I've incorporated some glass frit. So they're quite colorful on the inside, but the outside is quite a bare design.
Awesome.
Some smaller ones. I primarily use terracotta clay. It's this darker clay. But we also use porcelain, which is a really nice, bright white. But I only have terracotta so far.
Yeah, it's great.
So these are a few pieces that I'll be selling at a handmade market at a festival in July, the end of July. And here are some teaware. This is called a shibori dashi. It's a type of Japanese teaware.
Awesome.
So that's how it looks like. This is the shape. So you put loose tea in here. The leaves are quite large, so there's enough space for them to fully open, which gives a wonderful flavor for the tea.
Do you need that in your life, Ryan?
Yeah, I think so.
I do as well. You know, I look at some of those and they're really aspirational. Like I want it. And
yeah.
I love what Christy and I have spoke about is, oh, look at that.
Nice.
As well.
In terms of the colors, Christy, tell us a little bit about why you choose the colors and where you get your inspiration from.
Yeah. I mean, when I create with clay, I allow my values and perceptions to flow into the making process. So tranquility, simplicity in the design, essentialism, and I'd say primarily the gifts and beauty of nature. So when I look at glass and the glass pieces, I can see in them like some reflections of lakes and lagoons, or with the reds, the volcanoes in Iceland. And yeah, I like when working with clay, I like to always leave a part of the clay unglazed, unfinished. For example, with beads, I also create beads for dreadlocks. And I like having part of them unglazed. Not sure if you can see them like this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So just for the person or the viewer to have that look and feel of the simple element of the clay body itself without any glaze. But yeah, I find it really fascinating that the whole process of making ceramics involves so many elements of nature, earth and the minerals and the oxides that all come together and make these tremendous colors. That's something that came from mud can become sturdy and beautiful and shiny. Always fascinates me about ceramics.
Yeah, that's cool. So is color sort of the key to the style of your work, or is it the shape of the ceramics, the pots?
Yeah, I like incorporating color, though the more I've been making, I've realized that the pieces that have less color, I like more.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if I'd have a simple design like this with just a little bit of glass, I personally like the piece more.
Yeah.
But it's interesting also following on my social media accounts what people like more. But I try to stick to my own style so far. I've had a lot of people commenting on blues and glossy turquoises, but I personally like the element of looking at a piece that looks quite plain, and then on the inside there's then a nice color.
That was interesting, Christy, and Ryan and I have just spoken about this. Do you create pieces for you, or do you create pieces that people will ask you for, and maybe create pieces that you might not enjoy, or you might not think that they're great, or the process might not be great, but people will buy them?
Yeah, well, I've come to this already when making this teaware and these pots. Let's say I wanted to make them myself just to know how to make them, to learn how to use them. Though after the third piece, it becomes I wouldn't say it's a chore, but it's hard work,
Yeah.
the work I make. But I know it brings joy to me in the end, and the fact that I can create a piece of teaware that can bring value to someone else's life, and the joy and the happiness that people use and the value they have from the work I make, I think it's always worth it. Though I still think that at the stage where I am, I'm just finished my second year studying this course. I don't think I've hit that phase yet where I'm at a point where I have to sort of make those products to gain income without having always that spark. It can become kind of
I think that's the good thing about like being in education and learning the process, is like you don't have to worry about selling the product. You can just completely concentrate on getting your style down and your how you produce the work.
yeah.
And you don't have to worry about like the pressure of paying bills and stuff from the artwork. You can just master your style basically, and then by the time you come out of it, hopefully that style's nailed. It's really solid and it ends off selling straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still experimenting with many forms and clays and clay bodies and glazes. I wouldn't say I've yet come to that point where I have a specific style, though I know what I prefer.
Yeah.
And I would say the work I make almost always reflects my experiences and environment. And I could see that in the past when I was attending high school, most of the work I made was actually, it was 2D. I made various logos, band logos for a man that owned this pub, and I would make logos of Jimi Hendrix, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd.
Sweet.
These 60s or 70s bands. And then I've evolved to jewelry, and then to ceramics, to teaware.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Made quite a lot of jewelry now.
Look at that.
Cool.
Crackle glazes.
Nice.
So, I mean, most of my work is more visible. Well, you can check out my Instagram accounts for detailed.
Nicely done, Christy. Get that plug in there. I love it.
Yeah.
Ryan, it's interesting because what you talked about there is about not having to pay the bills. But I think what we chatted about earlier was you kind of supplement, don't you? You've got a lot of client work that you do, and then obviously you've got your work that you want to produce. So I guess you don't ever get to the point where you have to do something that you might not enjoy, but just to churn it out and pay the bills.
Yeah, well, I do because like I take on jobs on the commercial side of things, like as an illustrator, and some of them are I'm not really digging that much, but I know they're well paid or whatever, and I should take them on, or they're long-term clients that I've had for quite a while, and I've got a good relationship with, and it might not be the most exciting job, but you do it because I see the commercial side of things as like bread and butter, like it pays my bills. And then if I split my time between that and the artwork, then the artwork's mine and it's not dictated by anybody,
Yeah.
And there's always a brief behind the client work, whereas the artwork, you do it for yourself. So yeah, it's good to split your time between those two things if you can, for sure.
Excellent.
Take the pressure off.
Yeah. Good stuff. What we'll do is we'll bring Kelsey in. She's in the green room there, I can see. I'm going to add her to the stream. I'm going to throw you up there. Kelsey, no pressure. There you are, right in the big space. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining us this morning. Why didn't you, again, give us a little bit of a background, Kelsey, who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Okay, I'm Kelsey. I am from New York, but I live in Newcastle now. I did my master's at the Glass Center. So I have a master's in glass and ceramics, but I also have a bachelor's in fine art. I'm multidisciplinary. I work in printmaking, also glass, but also just general sculpture, and sometimes audio. I tend to mix it up because I'm more working in the gallery than like commercial. I still do commercial work, but I tend to be in the gallery more, dealing with more conceptual work. In the past, I've dealt with a lot of topics from like mental health to sexual assault survivors. Recently, I'm switching kind of into a new realm of, I've been talking about colloquialisms as a foreigner, like how you understand those. And I recently just got an Arts Council grant to start exploring the intersections between craft, technology, and art, which is really exciting. And it's like allowing me to like kind of become a student again, where I get to explore something without worrying so much about like, oh, how much money is this costing? Yeah. So that is nice. But I also still do a lot of commercial work. For example, I'm making like trophies right now, like handmade, designed by me. And I just use different things like water jet cutting to like screen printing to do the names on the trophy, to concrete casting. So I'm quite multifaceted, I suppose. And I even do like small jewelry work too. Yeah.
Where do we start there, Kelsey? There's so much going on, isn't there?
I think because I had the fine art background, so that made me definitely want to stick into gallery work. But then the glass and ceramics masters like helped me understand there's also a way of making and like being a craftsperson and being able to have commercial work that can like help you through the times of making conceptual development as well. Because I know Ryan said it earlier, at the end of the day, you are a business and you need to make money. And sometimes, like, particularly in this last year, gallery work isn't always there, like, all the time. So it's something you have to be mindful of in, like, how you split your time, which I'm getting there. Yeah.
I really struggle with that. Like, where do you split your time? Like, I sort of describe it as like 50-50, but it's never 50-50 for me. It's like, it's peaks and troughs of like doing your own work or doing client work. Yeah, it's always hard to balance, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's almost a different mindset totally as well. Like when you're going from like a commercial work to then like more conceptual or like processes where it's just you making the decisions.
Yeah.
And you don't have that client bouncing off. And I find I've now started to just have total different days. Like I just have like a Monday for like emailing and admin, and then a Tuesday for commercial work, and then Wednesday, Thursday, that's like just my conceptual art practice.
Yeah.
That makes sense in my head now. I'm starting to figure out.
Yeah, that's what my wife keeps saying to me. You need a day for this, a day for that, because I'm just like all over the place, like mixing up every day. But if you can get to that, if you can get that structure, I think that's the best way to handle it for sure.
Yeah. I say that. I try to follow it.
Yeah. It's got to be strict.
Do you do that, Christy? Were you going to come in there?
Yeah, I'm just saying that I find personally, when I give myself a day to do a specific thing, I sort of then warm up and I can do the same thing the whole day. If I have, let's say, a meeting or an online call and things have to do with email, if I just send that first email, then I can do the next, and I'm just in a flow the whole day. And then I have another specific day after making work, or one day just social media. I think it's easier for us as humans then. But of course, each person has their own way and system.
I'm quite envious. I think I'm with Ryan. I bounce all over all day.
It's chaos in here.
Yeah.
I mean, me too. It's not always like that, but
Kelsey, I love that structure, because during your introduction, you just said that you do so much, so you must have to be structured and scheduled. Where is your real passion? If you could have all the time in the world to really lean into something, what would it be?
I suppose I would do more gallery work and more like conceptual work and trying to push boundaries within the glass field and the art field, because I am interested in those intersections between craft and art. Because a lot of times they get separated, or they're seen as like different worlds, and I think they can exist at the same time. Like I grew up in a family of like factory workers and makers and craftsmen, and I also had artists in my family, and I saw how these skills like can be intertwined. to make really incredible work. So I would want to focus on that, but I also really enjoy teaching, so I'd love to share those skills and that knowledge with other people. And I do teach sometimes too, just another thing.
Yeah, just throw that one in as well.
Yeah.
You said about pushing boundaries, and I love that. So in terms of pushing boundaries, how do you get your inspiration? And do you look at others? Do you go to others' galleries? Do you watch other artists? Do you watch stuff on YouTube, for instance, to learn techniques and try to gather information?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix. Like yesterday, I just spent all day doing all the galleries in Newcastle just to see like what's going on around here. But I also do have like a mix of watching videos, just like how to make things in the actual process of things. Particularly with like printmaking, you can always learn more and you can get better and you can get cleaner. And then, yeah, things like neon, like I watch how other people bend the glass. So there's some technical sides to it of learning, but as far as like inspiration, I read a lot of books by artists that they've written about their like conceptual like development. Like Grayson Perry, I read a lot of his books and like how he's got to where he is and like how he talks about things like gender and other things that I'm interested in. And funny enough, I have the same birthday, so I'm always kind of idolized him. But I also look at people like William Morris. So it's not just people rooted now. I also look to the past.
I'm going to bring us all in here, and I'm going to ask you that, Christy. So, great example of Grayson Perry, and some of the different mediums that he explored there. Do you want to do that, Christy? In terms of you're doing ceramics there. Would you want to look at other aspects? I know you talk about you do 2D stuff. Could you see yourself looking at and commercializing other bits and pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm open to other forms of making and styles. And yeah, I follow many artists and YouTubers, and I feel really lucky that I'm in this age where I can learn so much on the internet right now in terms of ceramics and all the tutorials people are giving out and ways of creating. I find it so much simpler to try something out and learn new things. So even though right now I'm focused mainly on youre and ceramics, I'm still open to other forms and pieces. If people would ask me to try and make something for them that would be something 2D or something I haven't tried, I like trying new things, so I can see myself doing that as well, if I will have the time, of course, because now I'm in Slovakia and I don't have the facilities, and when I do, I'm at uni, so I'm focusing mainly on uni work. But after that, when I'll have my own studio, I do believe that I will be evolving and creating new work that I haven't tried
and pushing boundaries, Kelsey. I love that. Ryan, can I throw that question to you as well, in terms of maybe who inspires you, or maybe who you watch from afar and learn from?
I mean, generally, it's just amazing to see how many people are actually making a career out of their skill set. Like creatives. When you go on Instagram and stuff, how many people now are getting work and make a living from their craft. That's always like super inspiring, I think. In terms of like specific artists and stuff, I think do you know Posada? He was like a Mexican artist, like in the 1800s. And for me, when I first saw his work, I was like, oh, right, that does work then. Because he basically, all his characters are skeletons. And that was like a real like click for me, because a lot of people were like, why are you drawing skulls and stuff? And for me, it was always because, well, everybody's got a skull, right? Everyone's got a skeleton. It is just a person with no like sex or race attached to it, and yeah, Posada just basically works, and like he did all these like political cartoons and stuff, and like he always featured like skeletons, like hooded skeletons and stuff in it. And so yeah, he was like a massive like click in my head when I saw his work. And then sort of like contemporary people that grew up sort of in the same field that I'm in, which is like heavily motorcycle related, would be like a guy called Ornamental Conifer, who is from the UK, but he works out in LA now. And he started as like, I guess as like a sign writer, but not in a commercial sense, in like an art sense. And he like paints cars and stuff by hand now, like paints like, it's, you should check his work out because it's like, it's incredible. He's like a massive inspiration, you know, because just anyone who's making a living out of their craft, I think, is like a huge inspiration to me.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got different styles, and you're not necessarily, you know, like inspired by the style of work, but how they apply the craft. That's the main thing. How people apply what goes on in their brain to like link it to this hand to link to income. That's like, you know, it's like here, and then a business. That's what's really super inspiring, I think.
Definitely. Has anyone got questions for anyone within the room here? I'll throw it out to you guys.
I was going to ask Ryan, have you seen Grayson Perry's documentary where he travels around in the US on a motorcycle that's hand painted?
Yeah, I did see that. Because I've been to a few like bike shows, and Grayson Perry's been there, and I've like talked to him a couple of times, like just briefly, because he's like heavily into motorcycles as well, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am as well. I just don't have any of it in my artwork.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, it's a good thing if you can keep them separate. Yeah.
I think sometimes there's so many things happening in my art world that I need to keep some things separate.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I just sort of put them all in the mixing pot. Yeah. Awesome.
Christy, did you have anything you want to ask or bring up?
I'm good so far, but I'm glad that I
How
can
about
come to events like this and learn with other artists and share and have these discussions.
how about your social, Christy? Because we've discussed things like Instagram for you. You know, you've been sharing the actual the pieces, but you know, I want you to share about you and your story.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? What are your plans going forward for that?
Yeah, I'd like to add some stories and videos how I can introduce myself to the people who are following me. And I feel it's important because myself, when I follow different artists or studios or teams of people who make the work, they don't only speak about the work they make and the technique, but they show how they use the work, what brought them to making the stuff they make. And I feel that brings this connection with the artist and the viewer or the consumer of the art. So
Kelsey, what's your
connections
thought?
and people seeing not only like my hands and making, but actually seeing my face and listening to the person's voice. I think that creates this human connection with people, which is nice, since people can connect with each other from any part of the world, and I think that's such a wonderful element and part of social media. So I want to work on that.
Kelsey, can I bring you in there in terms of what you share about yourself and your story and your muse, as opposed to the actual creative side, the actual pieces?
Yeah, so I could definitely work on social media. It's funny, Ryan, you were saying like, oh, I'm not very good at it. And I look at that and I'm like, wow, it blows me away. It's so good. Mine tends to be a mix of my work and my life, just as like how I develop ideas, but I also will do stories of like the process making. I tend to do a lot of stories and then kind of forget to do as many posts. So I need to get better at that. But I've kind of always found social media a challenge, just because I have a trouble keeping up with it, which is funny because everyone would think my age, oh, you'll be great at it. But yeah, it's definitely a mix of my studio and my like actual life too, because a lot of what's happening in my life influences my work as well. So yeah, it's a mix. I do have like a website and I'm like rebuilding that right now. I try to keep that like pretty on track, because like the things I apply for, your social media doesn't matter as much as like your portfolio and your website and like your CV. So yeah, it's kind of a mix of things. It's one of those where like I'm not selling as much on there. I'm just like showing who I am as a person, as an artist. I probably could try to sell more, and I've done like the artist pledge and sold things like that. But I'm also not doing things in great big editions. I'm making big sculptures. So there's a difference of how you show that to like what Ryan would do or what Christy would do, because they kind of have the way of making things like in larger quantities than just a one-off sculpture. So you kind of have to think about it differently.
Interesting point. And just before we wrap it up, Ryan, can I just ask you this one? I've heard lately with social that often people are talking about there's no need to have a website now because we have social presence. And what Kelsey's saying there is that a website is really powerful for her, because when she's going for maybe funding or galleries or whatever, that's where they'll go. What's your thoughts on that?
I think you do need a website, personally, because it's like it's more curated. I think like you're more specific about the stuff that you put on your website. Like I treat my website as a portfolio, although it's a bit all over the place at the minute. Like Kelsey was saying, I need to sort mine out. But you know, like websites do get neglected actually because of Instagram and other social media platforms. But I think if you can have your website as like a solid portfolio of work, I know that agents still look at my website. You know, I've worked through for the illustration side of things. I have an agent, and like they have on their website like a portfolio of my work, which is all the stuff from my website, because their clients will just look at that. Rather than going through your social media channels. Because I think, you know, so an art director might not have much time to be looking for an artist. So they don't want to be scrolling through your Instagram the whole time, right? Like they want to go straight to the core of what your work is. You know, they don't want photos of your dog and stuff. They just want to go to your website, see within the first couple of seconds, oh yeah, like this is going to suit the project. Yeah, so I think websites are still very relevant. Maybe in the future they might not be, I don't know. But I do know that I've had a lot of work through Instagram. In fact, I think that's how my career started, really. It was like right place, right time, and Instagram. Like, so although websites are super important, I think, you still can't knock the fact that Instagram is like the go-to place to see instantly see somebody's work in life.
Yeah.
It's funny as well. I think it depends what sector of the art world you're in, because I do a lot of grant applications and get funded through that. If you don't have a website, you sometimes can't even like apply. Like,
yeah, because the year is not being established or something. Yeah. No, and like I don't really want to see a time where you don't have to have a website. You know, like your website should just be like your portfolio of work. Like you should be able to see someone's style like straight away just by their portfolio on the website. Yeah, because like I say, you know, like scrolling through, art directors don't really want to scroll through someone's Instagram. It's too. They don't want to see the process either. They just want to see the result that they're going to get. You know, they want to contract you for the end result, not the process. I think it's good, like as an artist, to put out on Instagram your process and stuff, because you'll build a fan base, and those, you know, you need to show those people how you work and build a community up. Whereas like, yeah, grants and stuff, you know, they're not going to want to scroll through your social media channels. They just want to go straight to the point of your work.
Wonderful stuff. Is there anything anyone wants to share before we wrap it up?
It's just, sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
I was just going to say it's nice to see like the different levels of where we're at as well, because we all just have varied practices and just like what points we're at, but also like you understand that there's so many different types of artists and makers out there. Like we're all doing very different things day to day, and it's just nice to see that diversity with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like it's good to see that, you know, there's different different avenues to go down, and to see people like at different points in their career and stuff. Yeah, it's just nice to connect with people and hear how other people go about producing work. Yeah, it's been good.
Definitely, I think this will be a great resource as well. As you say, this will be on the Facebook page and the Facebook groups to catch up with, so people can come back and watch it and be pointed at it. And, you know, please share it out to your crew as well, because, you know, if anyone can take value from this, please do that. Christy, did you want to say something before we leave?
No, I'm glad. I'm glad for being part of this live stream and for contributing. I think it's really good also for beginning artists to accept these opportunities and speak about their work, because for me personally, I used to find it really hard to speak to others about my work, and especially as an artist, as nowadays it's better than it was in the past, but there's this sort of notion that artists can't make a living and things about that. So I think it's really nice to speak about it, and then that gives me more confidence and motivation to continue the work I make. So it's great for all artists to come together and share. So thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. That's been brilliant, and I want to just do this again. I love it, but I'm looking forward to spending some time with you very soon and delving further into your journey. So thanks so much for sharing. We'll see you all very soon as well. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.